Welcome to Behind the Tools. Here's Tradify CEO and your host, Michael Steckler.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Tradify podcast. I'm thrilled this week to have Jordan Farley from Artisan Electrics, based in Cambridge. Jordan, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome. And Jordan will be known to many of you that follow him. He now has. Was you updated on the number? Last time I looked, you were, I think, over 50,000 subscribers to your channel. Is that
56? And
56? I'm out of date.
We're just about to hit 57, I believe. Probably tonight we'll hit 57,000 subscribers.
Not that you're counting, but yes, that's amazing.
No, not at all.
That's fantastic. And I think what's really interesting, just I'm going to go a little bit off script here, but when did you launch the channel?
I kind of set it up when I first started my business, which was 2016, but I didn't really do much with it for the first few years. So I've only really been posting regular videos for the last couple of years, I would say.
Yeah, it's amazing. So if you look at the growth in the last year, I'm sure when I look back about a year ago, if I'm not mistaken, you were probably more like 6,000 or 7,000 subscribers. Is that fair?
Yeah, it has totally blown up in the last year. Yeah,
that's incredible. Cool. So we have a lot of listeners that are all over the world. So Jordan's based in the UK, in a lovely town called Cambridge, famous for an average university, but also famous. I didn't realise this actually. I'm a football fan. For those of you in the US, a soccer fan. That Cambridge University invented the rules of football. Did you know that, Jordan?
I didn't.
You didn't know that? Oh, interesting. So in 1848, yeah, they did invent the rules of football / soccer. And the university itself has been there since 1209. So a lot of history. But it's a very, very pleasant city in the UK. So I'm going to dive straight in. So do you want to maybe, Jordan, start by telling us how you got into the business of being an electrician and when you started that journey and what made you get into that?
Yeah, so I originally started off, depends how far back you want to go, really. I didn't really want to be an electrician originally. My dad was an electrician and his dad was an electrician. So there's a bit of a history there. Yeah, but I kind of thought I kind of wanted to break the mold a bit. So when I left school, I went to college and studied business and archaeology, like you do, because I just didn't really know what I wanted to do
archaeology,
with my life.
Archaeology ever come in handy in your line of work?
Digging cables in the ground. That's about it. But yeah, I guess when you're 16, you don't really know what you want to do with your life. So I just did what everyone else was doing. Went to college, did A levels and stuff. But about halfway through my college term, I kind of realized that I didn't really want to be stuck in an office for the rest of my life. Right. Although I actually am more in the office now, but I wanted to get a trade basically, and I realized that my dad had a good thing going. He enjoyed his work. He earned good money. It was always good for supporting my family. So I figured, hey, why not eat humble pie and ask my dad to give me an apprenticeship, which he very kindly did. So I did my apprenticeship route into the industry, really. Got qualified as an electrician, and unfortunately when I was 21, just got qualified, then my dad died of cancer.
Oh, sorry.
So that was quite intense because I just got qualified as an electrician, and I was like, I sort of found myself having to take over the family business kind of thing, and do all the stuff that you don't really learn how to do in college, like paperwork and quotes and invoices and all that kind of stuff. So that was pretty intense, but he trained me well, and I managed to sort of pick things up without doing too many mistakes, and managed to carry things on for a few years. So I kind of carried on the family business for a while, and then my wife and I decided we wanted to do some volunteer work and travel a bit. So we sold that business and we went and did some volunteer work, traveled around a few different countries for a few years. And then 2016, ran out of money, decided to come back to the UK and start a new business. And that was when Artisan Electrics was born. So started it from scratch, completely fresh start, but in Cambridge, which is where I was from originally. So I sort of knew the market. and was able to create Artisan Electrics, which is the business that I'm running today. And it's grown from just being me on the tools to now, I think we've got 7 employees and a few subcontractors. So it's grown a lot, and YouTube's been a big part of that as well.
Yeah, cool. That's great. Just to go back a step, I mean, you talked about selling the business, which I'm sure some of our listeners have either done or might be thinking about doing at some point. How did you approach that?
I was quite fortunate, really, because it wasn't it wasn't the most profitable business or anything that I was running. It was just a little family business. So normally it would it's quite difficult to sell a trades business like that. Just it was sort of a one-man band, but there was a guy who had been working for me as a subcontractor, and his dad owned a construction firm, and he was sort of looking to get established in the area. And so I put it out to him, and he was interested. So he bought the business just as a going concern, really, with the goodwill and the customer base and stuff like that. And it wasn't, there wasn't a lot of money in it, but it was enough for me to kind of like have a bit to the side, so that when I did need to start up a new business a few years later, I had enough money to get a van and tools and just get set up again. You know?
And did you know when you went traveling that you would want to come back and start another electrician's business?
Not really. I think it was just kind of open-ended. We were just sort of went with the flow, really. Right. But I guess I knew that I would have to at some point, because at the end of the day, you've got to earn some money at some point. So it worked out great. And actually starting a new business was brilliant for me, because I could start it with all the lessons that I'd learned from running the previous business in mind. And you probably know, like yourself, as a startup, you have advantages in that you don't have all the kind of what would you call it, like all the baggage that a long-standing business has. So you can run it quite lean, you can get it more profitable, you can do the things that work, and you don't have all the things that don't work that you're kind of trying to get rid of. So it was a great experience for me, just setting up a new business from scratch and being able to learn all the lessons from having run the previous business and implement that into my new business.
Yeah, what do you think? One of the questions I had was more about the business you're in now, but actually seems more applicable to your prior business. What was the biggest learning you think or challenge that helped you the most, sort of when you then launched your own business?
There's a lot of things, really, that you kind of learn the hard way when you're young, like I was, and running a business. So stuff like being a bit too trusting, maybe with certain customers, or taking on the wrong jobs for the wrong customers. I learned the hard way a couple of times there, with just working for some people where I should have just said no to the initial inquiry, because there was, alarm bells should have started ringing, but they didn't, because I was a little bit young and naive. So, didn't get paid. Stuff like that. That happened.
Could you give me an example? Could you give me an example? When you say alarm bells start ringing, can you give me an example of when an alarm bell rings for you?
Well, now it's like if a customer's really kind of being a bit tight about the price, they're really insistent about, they basically just want the job as cheap as possible. Now for my business, it's all about quality and not price. So I've learned who my target customer is and who it isn't. But when you're sort of young and green and a little bit desperate for work, maybe your sort of tendency is just to take on every single job that comes in, even if it's not really the kind of customer that you want to be working for. So I had, one or two sort of dodgy characters approach me who, they want, it's the typical story of like, oh, can you give me a discount if I pay you in cash? And, just a few things like where a few things that you kind of, I should have figured out that they were a bit unscrupulous, these sort of characters, and I should have just said no to working for them. But at the time I was like, yeah, great, no problem, and and then just they paid you in cash on the first day, and then you did 5 more days of work and you didn't see any more money. And that was it, So,
and do you have any advice for any sort of young people out there that are maybe thinking about they've finished their apprenticeship, they've worked for someone for a few years, they're about to go and embark on that journey. I guess, and this sort of leads to the next question around how you build the business. If they haven't got a customer base, do you have any advice for them around how to filter, apart from the obvious stuff around how they pay you, but how to filter those things or how to be more selective? Is that possible even when you're sort of starting out afresh without a customer base?
Yeah, I think it is to a certain extent. One thing I say to people now is if they're starting a business, start it as if they mean to sell it in the future. Yeah. Because I kind of learned that. I like my previous business, I would have never, my dad would have probably never expected to sell it in the future. I would never have. But now I think you never know what's going to happen in the future. And if you're building a business, for it to be a proper business, you should actually be able to sell it, really. You should be able to sort of remove yourself from it. And that, if you do that, then you kind of create a brand that is not just about you, but it's sort of about, an ethos that behind the company and stuff like that. So that's what I've done with Artisan Electrics. It's not like Jordan Farley Electrical Services or something like that. It's a brand. And that also enables you to target a certain type of customer. So when I set up Artisan Electrics, my target customer straight away as part of my business plan was I want to work in sort of high-end luxury properties, be able to do a really high standard of job, install really good quality materials. That's my target customer. And that's how I sort of set out from the start. And of course I had to, there were times when I didn't have enough work and I had to maybe accept jobs from people that weren't the perfect customer for me. But ultimately it's helped me to kind of guide it that way.
Yeah.
So I would say that definitely if you're setting up a business, having your target customer in mind and your sort of niche in mind is really important. And that's helped me to get Artisan Electrics to where it is today.
And it's a really interesting point there that you thought about an actual specific group of, buyers for your services, and that you went for the sort of luxury end of the market. A couple of questions on that. Number one, why did you pick that as an area? Was it underserved in Cambridge? And sort of number two, how did you approach, which we'll get into really how you started your YouTube stuff, how did you approach marketing to that group to build that customer base?
Yeah, I mean, Cambridge is, I'm fortunate to be in Cambridge in that there's a lot of money here because of the university, because of all the tech, and like pharmaceutical companies and stuff that are here. It's a bit of a bubble. So like in the last recession, for example, Cambridge is kind of not really hit by the recession as much as everywhere else because of that. So it was a good place for me to start a business because I felt more confident doing it here, knowing that. And then there is that customer base that is present in the area because of that. So I was able. It is difficult to target those kind of people specifically with advertising and things like that. All you can really do is the way that you present yourself, make it as appealing to those kind of people as possible. So, like the name Artisan Electrics, people, they're the kind of people who will go to an artisan bakery and buy,
I was going to make a joke about that. I didn't want to because I thought I was going to say, did you name your business after an artisan bakery or coffee shop or something? But it sounds like you did. It was intentional.
Yeah. It was at the time, it was 2016 when I set up. It was at the time when artisan was like really the thing, everything. It meant artisan,
yes.
And it still is, but I kind of wanted to speak like an artisan really is someone who's a craftsman, somebody who, prides themselves in their work, and does everything really carefully. And that's the kind of image that I wanted to convey really to customers.
Yeah.
And in the hope that those kind of customers would be seeking out this kind of business. And it has kind of developed that way, but it's taken a lot of hard work to get the right customer base. And I think getting in with a few key customers and then you getting recommendations, getting loads of reviews, that has been absolutely key to my business, is getting reviews, because a certain customer base who's not so much worried about price, but worried about quality, what do they do? They look for reviews,
Talk me through your review process. How do you ensure that how did you ensure that you received reviews and people and followed up on that?
We just send a link out to every customer with the invoice. We just say, as a small local business, we really rely on great reviews from our loyal customers. Would you mind giving us a review? And that works great. We've got over 100 5-star reviews now. And it's just the thing now, you know, whenever anyone's looking for anything, TripAdvisor or, you know, whatever, they look for reviews. And if you've got 5 stars, you stand out from the competition. So, and then it's about living up to that reputation. That's the thing. You've got to work really hard to get the reputation in the first place, but to keep it up as well. So it doesn't just come automatically, but it pays dividends if you really put in the hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the reviews process is one of the things I've heard from lots of people is that they find that the comparison sites, so Check a Trade and those types of rated people, those types of sites don't necessarily drive the quality of leads or the customers they're looking for. But the review side is still really, really important, whether it's on Google or other platforms is still critical. And it sounds like you're reinforcing that. And then did you have quite an intentional approach to your, I mean, it looks like you did, but do you want to maybe walk through how you fell on YouTube and how you thought about your digital presence to really appeal to that target audience that you picked?
Yeah, so in terms of YouTube, I mean, I just started the channel when I made the business. I just started it like you do with when you're starting a business. You just you claim your name, you know, you put your flag in the ground on all the various platforms. So I set up the Instagram profile, the Twitter profile, and I was like, oh, I'll set up a YouTube you know, page as well. I didn't really intend to do much with it at the start, but I thought, well, I need to claim my name, you know. I've bought my domain name and stuff. I need to just claim my name on every platform. And I think I just posted like 1 or 2 little videos, silly little videos really, without thinking much about it. And then one day, one of the videos started to get a lot of views. It was a little sort of almost like tutorial style video for customers, because it was solving a problem that I used to get called out for a lot, and it was really simple for the customer to solve. So I thought, I'll just make a video about it. I can just send it to customers then, and it will be a goodwill sort of service for them, rather than having to pay me to come out. I'll just show it to them, and hopefully it'll fix it. And if not, then I can come out. So yeah, and then that one got loads of views, and then I thought I'll post a few more videos, and some of them started to get loads of views from electricians who were like, oh, this is great. Can you make more videos in the comments? So I was like, okay, I'll make a few more then. And it just started to snowball.
And what was the first video that you got a comment from an electrician that really prompted that for you?
I was working in this weird sort of job. It was like a shipping container that I was putting conduit in and stuff, like steel conduit. It was going to be like a lab or something. And it was just a bit of an unusual job. So I just filmed it on my phone or on my GoPro or something, and just put it out there on YouTube. And then, yeah, quite a few electricians started commenting, saying, you know, giving their opinion, and then saying, oh, this is great. Can you post more stuff? And that was sort of what it gave me the impetus to go, oh yeah, I'll post another video, and then another. And now we're posting 3 times a week, and it's kind of an addiction. So
did you post as you went, or were you very thoughtful about the content you were going to post? Or it was just, you know, I'm on a job, I'm going to post what we're up to and see what happens?
Yeah, at the start it was very much like that. Just, you know, if I could film a bit of footage on a job, just post it out. There wasn't even really much sort of editing and stuff going into it. I mean, I'd just knock it together on iMovie, you know, and chuck it out there. But it's slowly evolved over time. As the videos got more and more views, I started to become more conscientious about how YouTube works and how to grow on YouTube and how to get more views and things like that. And it's slowly transitioned from just being a thing that sort of happened by accident to actually it's a business. It's almost a business in itself, really, YouTube. But also we get so much work from YouTube now. It's absolutely amazing. So it's like, it's a business in itself, but it's also feeding my electrical contracting business now. I would say 50% of our leads come from YouTube now, which is just nuts.
Could you, and you tell me what sort of people are coming through as leads in YouTube?
So the major one for us is electric vehicle charging. Because I did the EV charging course fairly early when it was quite new, and not many other people were doing it. And then I started posting videos about it. And of course, naturally, then people who are searching, who want to get into that side of the industry, they found my videos. And then customers who are looking to get EV charging points found my videos too. And So those videos have created kind of like a real flow of leads from customers who see us doing the installs and go, oh, I like the way you work, I like the way you present yourself, can you come and do my install?
Yeah.
And then also electricians who are just looking to get into it, and then I get messages from them asking questions about how do you get into the EV side of the business and stuff. So I do a lot of stuff just helping electricians get into that part of the industry now as well.
Yeah, and do you think that was the one of my questions was around, you focused quite early, as you just rightly said, on the EV market, and obviously spotted that and thought, right, there's what was probably a niche at the time has become no longer a niche, and probably won't be in the future. What made you do that? Or was that just something you were interested in and could see was going to be big? What made you take that decision to go very focused on EV?
Yeah, I like to do a course every year to kind of upskill myself. Yeah. So I always make it my goal to do a new course every year to just for my own fulfillment, really, and development. Just think it helps me to grow as an electrician and as a person. And the EV one was the sort of the logical one because that was one of the new things that was coming in.
Yeah.
And then it was a bit of a weird one because you kind of do the course, but you don't know really if you're going to get any jobs to be able to actually put it into practice. But I just did like I've always done with my business. Like if I want to attract work for something, set up a specific page for that on my website. So, I just added a page. We are electric vehicle charging specialists in Cambridge, and just rely on Google to direct people to that. And it started trickling in. And then, you do a few jobs, it goes okay, you sort of improve, you learn, and then, post a few videos about them. And it just sort of snowballed from there to the point where now, like probably nearly half of our work is electric vehicle charging.
It's half now. Wow, that's a big number.
Yeah.
And do you see that? No, go on.
Yeah, I would say that's quite like, if you just looked at our business, you would think that every single person in the UK was about to buy an electric vehicle, because we get literally, like, if you were in the office hearing the number of phone calls we get for EV charging, you would think that this was just everyone was adopting them now. But it's just because of YouTube, we get, hundreds of inquiries every month for EV charging. So it's probably not like a good sort of gauge for most electricians starting up a business that they're going to get tons of inquiries. But it's definitely, just what we're seeing, the amount of business that we're seeing from it shows you the potential, and that's only going to grow exponentially over the next few years. So yeah, it's a great place to be for us. We're really happy that we got in early on it, and we've sort of positioned ourselves as experts in the field because it's resulting in a lot of work.
And are you talked about the number of leads. Is that all in Cambridge, or are you going further afield?
No, we are going quite far now. Again, because of YouTube, people find us and they're like, "Oh, I'm a couple of hours away. Would you be able to come and do my charge point?" And we're like, "Yeah, no worries. If they want to pay us a bit extra to go over there and do it, that's fine." So luckily, I've got Corey, who's doing a lot of our EV installs, and he's young and energetic, so he doesn't mind a bit of traveling.
And I see he's quite active on helping you with sort of Instagram Live and doing all that stuff. When did you decide, because you're 7 people now, when did the business really hit that point? Was it EV charging that did that made you think, right, I need more people, we're getting so many leads coming in, you couldn't cope? Yeah,
that was it really. It's not that long ago. I mean, it's literally months ago that sort of happened. So like December, I think it was December. No, it was earlier than that. October, I think, last year. I was on holiday. We were on holiday with some friends, and I was just talking to them about it. Like my inbox was just totally flooded, and I just couldn't keep up with the number of inquiries that were coming in. And I was saying, I'm at this point now where I've got to make a decision. Do I just keep it small and keep it me, or do I go, right, we're just going to do this and we're going to grow? It was either turn down loads of inquiries and find a way to just keep it small, or just go for it. And that sort of holiday was just like, I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this. So hired admin staff, hired Corey to just do EV basically. And then it's grown from there. So we've got more and more people coming on board, and I've still not got enough people. I need more help, really. I need some more good electricians, but it's hard to find like really good people. That's the challenge.
Well, that was my next question, because that's one of the challenges, I think, is being brave enough to do that, right? To go from a single person company to hiring your first employee. But how did you approach that? How did you find Corey? How did you find those people that could do the work? Because that definitely seems to be a challenge the world over.
Yeah, I mean, it's another blessing of having YouTube, is that there's already an audience of people who know me, they know the company. A lot of them are electricians. And so when they find out that there's an opportunity to do something or work for us, some of them will jump at that opportunity. So Corey is one of them. And he just messaged me. I think he messaged me on Instagram originally, just, he'd seen some of the videos and stuff. And we'd worked on a volunteer project that was sort of in common. We didn't know each other directly, but we sort of worked in the same place and knew some people in common. So I knew a little bit about him anyway. And he just messaged me, and he was at a point where he was kind of just finishing a project that he was working on, and he was going to be available. And I just invited him over, did an interview, and pretty much hired him straight away. So and it's worked out great, because not only is he a good electrician, but he's good on camera as well. So so he's good, and he's been a really good asset to the company. And now as well, because I've sort of trained him in EV. He hadn't done any EV stuff before, but I knew that he was capable to learn quite quickly. So I put him through the EV course, and then I spent a few days with him, training him to do EV charging, and then just sent him out on his own, and he's doing tons of them now, and he's doing them to a great standard. And he's capable now to start training some of the others as well, to be able to do it. So that's kind of the goal, is to start training some of the other guys to do it, so that we can keep up with the demand, because it's too much at the moment.
That's amazing. And it's funny, as you mentioned there about you training him. One thing that piqued my interest, and you sort of touched on it earlier when you mentioned the comment that the online side of the business is becoming as big as the sort of core business of actually doing installs for people. You actually started an education program that people could pay for via your channel. Do you maybe want to just talk, as I was really fascinated by that, do you maybe want to just talk about what prompted that and how you approached it?
Yeah, so I used to get so many messages from people who'd watched the channel and followed me on Instagram and stuff, saying, hey, look, I'm working for someone right now, but I'm really thinking about starting my own company. Have you got any advice? How did you do it? And I would try and help. I would try and help as much of these people as I can, just messaging back and forth. But I thought, there's really a need for a kind of just a course of how to start and run your own electrical business, because I had to, I was lucky that I had my dad, who sort of like taught me some of the basics of business, but it was so quick losing my dad that he didn't really have a chance to teach me all the stuff that I needed to know. And so I learned the hard way for a lot of stuff, made quite a few mistakes. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if you just had like a course of step by step how to do it, and how to avoid some of the mistakes that I might have had to, learn the hard way. What works, what doesn't work, all that kind of stuff. So I thought, I sort of sent some messages out, first of all, to see if there was actually an interest, and a lot of people showed an interest in it. So I thought, right, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to film this course, and I'm just going to share exactly what I did in 2016 to start Artisan Electrics, how I built it to sort of where I am today, really. And I just filmed it all, 14 hours of video footage, step by step, lots of different lessons divided into sort of logical sections. And it's gone down really well. So we've had a lot of people who could kind of benefit from the course, and it's given them the confidence to actually start their own business and go out on their own, which is great, and starting to hear some really great success stories from people. And so it's nice.
That's great. And one of the things, one of the comments you just made that I thought was interesting was the 14 hours. So I guess one of the big questions that comes out from building an online profile, uploading videos, all the things you're talking about. How do you find the time, and how did you find the time to do all that stuff?
Long days. Yeah, I mean, I think if I didn't love what I do, it wouldn't work, because I just sort of have a burnout. But I love being an electrician, and I love running a business as well. I've always sort of had a bit of a business mindset. You know, business is something that interests me. So the two things, and you know, doing YouTube, I do enjoy it. It doesn't feel like a job, you know. And somebody once said, if you do what you love, then you won't work a day in your life. And so, yeah, some days it does feel like hard work, because you know, you do get stressful days and stuff, but in general I enjoy it, so that helps. And it does take a lot of time, you know. I mean, YouTube itself is it's a full-time job, really, doing YouTube, especially now, just like preparing, planning, filming, editing, you know, dealing with because we get, you know, brand deals and stuff coming in now as well. You're dealing with the brands, doing meetings, contracts. There's tons of stuff, you know. So yeah, I'm sort of half and half now between like running the electrical business and then running the YouTube channel. That's sort of how my time is divided, really.
And has that been possible because you made the decision to hire, you know, Corey and then the other people that you've brought on board? And you talked about hiring an admin quite early on. I'm presuming that made a pretty significant impact.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I've got actually two admin people who they sort of like both part-time, but they fill a role. They make up like one part-time role, one full-time role. And then I've got Dan, who I've just employed, who is full-time for me, doing like estimates, you know, site visits, quoting, all that kind of stuff. So that means that, like, for me now, I don't need to go out and do all that stuff. I do the quotes for the EV jobs, but he does the quotes for all the other stuff, basically. And then I can spend a lot of time just kind of working on the business rather than in the business, and building it, kind of setting up systems and stuff, and also just YouTube, focusing on that.
Cool. And how did you've set up a program to help people learn about how to set up, learn about how to do this themselves. How did you educate yourself? You talked about how you do a course every year, but on the YouTube, setting up the website, you know, you talked about editing your videos. Did you just know that stuff, or how did you sort of get yourself up to speed on it?
No, YouTube is your friend. You can learn anything on YouTube. so you know, just search on YouTube for how to start a YouTube channel, and then how to make great videos. And I mean, you can. I basically spend probably too much time watching YouTube videos. So I
think that's probably quite good for people to hear that, though, versus, you know, I either hear that people have a friend, a family member who is really good on that stuff and builds the website for them and does everything. And the other, or people just know this stuff for whatever reason, but it's probably quite good for people to hear that actually you just went out there and searched for it, didn't know it, and then you've managed to build 50,000 plus subscribers from that, which is really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, like at the start, it was me filming everything on my phone and then me editing it all myself on my MacBook with iMovie. And it was very kind of basic, but that's how I got to, say, like, you know, 45,000 subscribers or 40,000 subscribers, you know, doing that. And a lot of people have massive channels and they just do that. Now, because I'm able to earn enough from the channel to reinvest a bit of money back into the channel, I've got a cameraman now who is brilliant, who's actually out on site filming with us.
So you got say that again. You got a cameraman full time?
Well, he's pretty much full time. I mean, he's freelance, so he's not employed, but he's pretty much working 5 days a week for us at the moment, because between like filming and editing. So he goes out, like he'll be on site on jobs maybe 2 days a week filming, and then he'll be a couple of days a week then editing that footage as well. So yeah, he's almost full time at the moment. But it's great because the quality of the content has just massively increased because of that. He's really talented. And so, yeah, that's just like been able to level up the content. And we're seeing now also an increase in views and subscribers because of that as well. So it's added a new sort of level to things, really. And
most of that's been paid for presumably by those sort of brands that are paying you for product placement or stuff like that. Is that and ads? You're at the point where I guess there's some ad revenue that comes through from Google as well. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
cool. And then on the EV, that's sort of the EV side of your business. Do you think that's going to become more competitive? What's the sort of next thing that you're thinking about as that becomes sort of more commonplace, or you think there's lots of room to move there still?
Yeah, it's like any industry, really. There's always going to be a sort of a cutthroat, cheapest chips side of it, unfortunately. It's the same with the EV. You've got these big brands who are kind of, well, yeah, big sort of companies who are trying to flood the market by, offering almost free installations and stuff like that. But the problem with that business model is that the quality always suffers and customer satisfaction is low and things like that. So my aim with the EV charging, just as it has been with general electrical work, is to offer a 5-star customer service, superb quality installation, and just find the customers who want that and are not so concerned about having the absolute cheapest job. And I think there is whatever your trade is, really, there's always going to be a part of the market that is like that you can reach. So I mean, now there are a lot more electrical contractors getting into EV charging as well, but I think that's a good thing because the demand is only going to increase. So we need a lot of good installers out there who will do things properly. And that's one of the things I'm kind of working on at the moment, because we're getting so many requests from all over the country, is actually creating a network of installers that I can sort of partner with to be able to help our customers who contact us through YouTube to get a good installation done. So I'm sort of reaching out to a few select electricians at the moment who I know offer a really good standard of work, and trying to get them to sort of work with us so that we can cover the whole country, basically.
Well, I guess that if someone searches for EV charging installation, you probably rank reasonably high on, across Google and YouTube and everything, because of the work you've done with the channel. So yeah, that makes a ton of sense that you would want to leverage that lead generation for the places that you can't reach as a business. Cool. Okay, I had a sort of couple of questions. One of them was, any sort of interesting jobs that you've done recently that you want to tell us about that have been either funny or different. You talked a bit about the container as well, the one that sort of kicked things off on the channel. But yeah, anything that you would share?
Yeah, I mean, we've done some cool videos on the channel. Like, I did this beautiful oak studio, kind of like music studio thing that we did some interesting wiring in. That's I did film some content over. That was like at the beginning of lockdown. Funny stuff. I mean, the funny ones you can't always share on YouTube, but there's a few funny things like customers. We had this one who had like cats, like a lot of cats, and they were like her babies, these cats. But the sockets all kept tripping. And we figured it out why. It's because the cats kept peeing on the sockets. So we had to end up.
That was a tough conversation.
It was a nightmare, and it was pretty gross, because like she had all these wooden skirting boards all the way around, and it was actually rotting the skirting boards. That's how much these cats were like peeing everywhere. But it just like totally soaked the wiring, and so it was stripping out and stuff. So we had to sort of like take off all the sockets and dry them out. It was really gross. So yeah, that's a little bit funny but gross kind of job. And then we had one Airbnb that we were working in where the landlord didn't tell us there was someone staying there, and that was a bit embarrassing, because I started drilling in the kitchen, and then they came out of the bedroom like scantily clad going, what the heck is going on? We're trying to have a holiday here. So needless to say, I didn't work for that landlord anymore after that. But yeah, that was a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, it's not ideal. I don't know what's worse, the cats or that. I think the cat sounded worse.
Yeah.
This has been really insightful. Is there any, you've given a lot of advice and talked about things you did. I mean, ultimately, what do you think the key is for people who are thinking about going out there, doing what you did and starting their own business? What do you think the sort of number one thing you would do again to sort of kickstart a successful business in the way that you have?
Customer service is key, really. I mean, you can be the best electrician on the planet, but if you're not good with the customers, then it doesn't matter really. You won't be able to kind of run a successful business. You've got to have both. So looking after the customers, turning up on time, honoring your quotes, it's just like, it's all basics of customer service, but it's absolutely key to really growing a successful trades business. That's what I found. And once you get that customer service down, then everything else kind of follows on.
Yeah, cool. All right, then we finished with some questions, which I think you did get in advance. So you had a little bit of preparation. Not everyone's had them in advance, actually, I don't think. So I'm going to ask them in order. The first one is, if you did have another trade, if it wasn't an electrician, which one would you pick?
I think it would be a plumber. Not the toilet sort of side of things, but I really like the shiny copper pipes. Like some of these plumbers on Instagram, and they polish the copper pipes up and they look so nice and all straight and lined up and stuff. I love all that kind of side of things. So yeah, I think plumber.
I'm not sure you can be selective. I don't know what you said about customer service. I'm not sure you can turn up and say, I only do copper pipes. I'm not going
to... sorry, I am a plumber, but I don't do toilets.
Yeah, I suppose you could put that on your website. The second one was, what's your favourite on-site lunch?
I'm a bit posh, so Corey's always ripping me because I have like avocado and smoked salmon salad for lunch and stuff.
Well, I guess you artisan by name, artisan by nature. You'd have to have avocado toast or something. Yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly. Got to live up to the reputation.
You're the first person that's come up with that sort of lunch, by the way. I'd be intrigued if everyone else avocado. And did you say smoked mackerel?
Smoked salmon.
Oh, salmon. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I said mackerel. I don't know why I said mackerel. And then your
mackerel's
go-to...
good as well. I like
yeah,
that.
Mackerel's good. Now, your go-to tool brand, and I want you to say the one you actually go to, not the one that maybe is paying you right now.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about this. It just depends what kind of tools you're talking about, really. I mean, the tool brand that I probably love the most at the moment is Super Rod, because they make tools that solve problems. I mean, I've sort of talked about them on the channel for loads, but they do like these cable pulling rods, for example, that you just get you out of so many tricky situations. And they've got this thing called the cable tongue, which you can use to get up, tight voids and stuff and pull cables in. So yeah, they're just the sort of lifesaver tools, and I appreciate those the most.
Yeah, cool. And then, as things are moving hopefully towards some sort of normality and stuff starts to open up, what sporting event or live gig would you go to first, if you could?
Oh, I've been to a gig for ages. I used to go to so many gigs when I was younger, but it's been a long time, and there's not really anyone that I've kind of got planned to go. But one of the best that I've ever been to was probably Bruce Springsteen at the Emirates Stadium, I think it was. That was pretty epic. But yeah, I've not really thought about who I'll go to see next. Sporting wise, I'm a bit boring. I'm not massively into my sports, but what I would like to do is go to America and see a baseball match again, because that was one of my favorite ever sort of sporting events that I went to, was baseball, believe it or not.
Really? Cool. Yeah. Okay, well, we put that on the list. And then any pranks, and we say this in all good humor, that you've played on apprentices. You've hired some apprentices, you've brought some people on.
Yeah, I think the classic one is just like get them to work on something like a switch or something, and then make a loud sort of loud noise to make them think that they're being electrocuted.
What is a loud noise that makes you sound like being electrocuted?
Something like or something like that. And then that usually makes them jump, you know.
Yeah, I could imagine. Okay, and the last question really is, look, this has been really insightful. I think you're doing some really you're obviously doing some really interesting things. I think just, you know, from the core business itself to what you've built from, you know, the channel, the education program you've put together. It's really, really cool. Is there someone else you think we should speak to next or have on the show that you think would be interesting for us to speak to?
Yeah, we talked about plumbers. Get PB Plumber on here. I don't know if you know him on Instagram.
We do, yeah.
He started making YouTube videos again recently, and he's putting out some great content. And I think that that's probably quite a cool guy to get on, actually.
Yeah, great. All right, Jordan, this has been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you spending the evening to talk to me. That was really helpful, and best of luck with the continued growth. It's a really cool story.
Thank you. It's really been a pleasure talking to you.
No, you're welcome. And for those listening, actually, we talked about reviews. It remiss of me not to say, please do review this podcast on your chosen podcast player, whether it's Spotify, Apple, etc. Give us 5 stars. It helps grow the audience base, and we'd appreciate it. Thank you, and see you next time.
And that brings us to the end of this episode. Behind the Tools is brought to you by Tradify, job management software for your trade business. If you enjoyed the podcast, let us know by leaving a review, and be sure to tell your mates about it. Email behindthetools@tradifyhq.com if you or someone you know would be keen to join the show as a guest.